Hey everyone, this is The Bones Arcana by Juneaid Mortimer. Juneaid. If you hear this, please correct me on the pronunciation of your name. I have, after much deliberation, picked this one up in order to largely replace my Rider-Waite-Smith for my public readings. The reason being, while I have a lot of respect for the Rider-Waite-Smith as a deck and a system, and I still recommend it as the first one you pick up, it does not necessarily do the best job of matching the current makeup of Earth's population. I am by no means an activist in that regard. I'm not here necessarily with the expressed intent of driving some sort of social change or agenda. For me, it's a functional and practical thing, which is I want to make sure anyone I read for doesn't feel out of place by virtue of the deck that I'm using. Everyone is comfortable, or at least equally uncomfortable. And I think this deck is a step in the right direction because ultimately it echoes my sentiment about the matter, which is, at the end of the day, the entire world, the entire population of humanity faces the same question, which is, aren't we just bones underneath? Largely, this deck is based on Rider-Waite-Smith's symbology, but the artist has taken some liberties with the tower, for example, is now a skeleton holding it as it's struck by lightning. And I think that's some very neat perspective. Of course, this deck skews darker. What would you expect out of something called the Bones Tarot? I also appreciate that there's not a highly decorated amount of imagery. There's this sort of staff totem in place of the wands. There might be a little bit of symbolism injected there, but largely it follows the suggestion of the Rider-Waite-Smith. If anything, is a little more stark and minimalist, which I appreciate. I don't necessarily think one needs to initiate into the Golden Dawn tradition in order to be an effective cartomancer. My only wish that this had was I love the way that Thoth Tarot swaps out the pages for princesses. This doesn't do that. That might be my only minor gripe. But again, they're skeletons, so they're somewhat ambiguous, which I appreciate. I especially love, I'll pull the art from over here beside my desk before, but the way some of these planets are rendered in. Like this one, Six of Swords. Such, like, there's a lot of river Styx in this image. I find that fascinating. And this Eight of Swords for me, initially you think about it, if you just look at the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery of a woman surrounded by swords, ideas leap to mind of being trapped. Here, there's also that idea of waiting too long, being mummified, when maybe you had an array of options next to you that could have cut you loose. I like how this adds, with, if anything, less imagery. It's not like a river or rain anymore. It's a night sky and a reflection and swords in a row versus a forest. But it adds layers of meaning. Sometimes those might go beyond the initial Waite-Smith. Like for this one, there's that implication of being stuck a while, of maybe happening on the scene versus necessarily encountering the direct aftermath. I don't mind. At the end of the day, I'm not a strict traditionalist. My objective is to use this deck to help people find meaning, not to uphold any one rigid way of thinking. There's also a little bit more lonely and somber feel to this one. You know, the Five of Pentacles is now just an isolated skeletal figure versus the two beggars we see here in the original Rider-Waite-Smith. Let me show you the companion art and the guidebook. The backs of these also look great. I love it when there's this somber imagery on the front and there's a classy card back. Every now and again, a card back will be something a little bit sassy, and it's like, I don't mind sass, but it's going on the ritual table, so to speak. I appreciate that somber approach. Pardon the dead air. This is the thank you card that comes from the artist with the deck. This planetary and skeletal imagery, it really adds perspective. I love this this particular expression. And this is the guidebook that comes with it. It's larger, so it doesn't fit in the box, which is a bit of a bummer, but it does have an upright and reverse meeting. It's a very modern deck that is designed to be read more than one way. Cards are good quality too. Not the thickest, which I kind of like, but thick enough that it doesn't feel like a knockoff, cheaply made deck. Not too thick that you couldn't riffle it. That's the review. I hope for those of you that were interested, this gives you an idea of if the deck is for you. As for me, I'm just glad I'm done with the review because now I can take this out of order and start using it some more. In balance and power, friends.